Hello, everyone. Welcome to this project management template overview and setup tutorial for Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. So if you or someone on your team has ever had to do project organization tasks to document requirements, plan work items, synchronize efforts, keep everyone up to date, and ensure an effective distribution of labor across personnel, then you know that coordinating a project can seem like an additional project in and of itself. It can be a lot of effort, but ideally, everyone on the team should be able to answer or quickly reference answers to the who, what, when, why, and how questions of the project and of their work within the project. For smaller projects, this knowledge may mostly reside with one person or with a project manager and a project analyst or coordinator. But for larger projects, it can become harder for any 1 to 2 people to maintain an up to date understanding of everything and how all the things relate to one another. It also becomes harder to keep everyone updated and to distribute tasks in an organized way. We can often use different abstractions, graphs, frameworks, and documents to help, but that's when it becomes someone's job to maintain all that coordination content. That's why this SharePoint and Teams project management template is meant to consolidate the standard graphs, documentation, and other project tools onto a single source of truth system that enables any team member to easily add to or reference project knowledge and sync it all to all the other project coordination tools and displays. All right, first I'll preview the Kanban board. So this should look pretty similar to anyone who has viewed one before. It displays the statuses up here in the bucket headers, and it displays the essential information of each project item on the card. These cards can be dragged and dropped across any of the different buckets. And when you click on the card, it pulls up a menu with all the different extra information fields, including who has requested this, uh, what they are requesting, why they are requesting it, and then who is going to be assigned to work on the items and when they plan to work on it. Then the how they plan to accomplish the item or deliver the work item is either left up to their discretion in their own notes, or the extra details for that can be added in this notes section. So bullets on what's required, maybe some next steps, or maybe a helpful link to more instructions, any advice that someone may know about this item or have for the team on this item, anything like that. And so this is all the SharePoint side of things, but this is also available on a Teams channel here where you can see all the same items, all the same information. It's really just a different view in a different interface to the same data source. And on top of this, we also have the Gantt chart in Teams too. So this is a more aggregate display of project timelines and items. And this one is set to group by theme, epic, and user story. So by higher or lower project goal levels. You can also see there's a little bit of sequencing added in here. I'll just move this around here, make it a little bit bigger. So we can see when some of the items are required to be done before other items through these arrows. In addition, all the brackets here showing the start and end dates are based on the start and end dates that were input on the earlier cards on the Kanban board. So there's no need to add and re-enter data anywhere. It's all just automatically based off of what's ever put in the project log or in that Kanban board, and it's all automatically synced together. And in a similar fashion, the next thing we have is the workload tracker. So this shows a more aggregate display of each person's assignments and roles in the project. People can be the lead for an item and be accountable for it. They can be responsible to do the work. They can be consulted on an item, and they can simply be informed on anything that is happening with each work item. And note that one person could be assigned to multiple roles for the same work item, but the default for the accountable field is that it only allows one person to be assigned to be accountable for each project item. Also, if you hover over the boxes here, you'll see that each box makes up, or each bar is made up of several boxes, and each box displays a title of each work item for each person assigned here. And next, we have the automatic personalized update emails. So this is just a screenshot example. These go out to anyone listed in any of the ROSI responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed fields. For each person, it sends a filtered list of links like this to all the project items that were updated in the last 24 hours that involve them. So if anyone on the team updates something, then everyone else listed on the card will be notified and have an opportunity to view it by the next day. So that is a preview of all the tools involved in this setup. So if you want to set these up for yourself, then you'll need to go to this Project Tracker SharePoint and Teams page on the Power Automate community site. The link to this page will be in the video description. And on here, you'll find a description of what this project tracker includes, along with screenshots and text descriptions of what you need to do to set it up. But for this video, I'm just going to go down to the bottom of this first message to find the project tracker files zip. This is a zip folder with all the files that I need for the setup. And once I have that downloaded, then I can go to my desktop here and go to extract all and extract directly to desktop. And this gives me a folder with all the files that I need. Initially, I'll want to start with this template project tracker list zip because this contains the Power Automate flow that will automatically set up the SharePoint list for us that everything else is based off of. So it's a flow setup because all the other SharePoint list imports required SharePoint admin permissions from IT that many users may not have in their organization yet. So to set this up, all we have to do, if you're on the Office page, you go to the waffle here, go to Power Automate, and then click on My Flows, and go to Import, going to go to Import Package Legacy, and on this initial screen, when I hit upload, it'll bring up the file browser. I just want to find that folder that I just extracted and go to template project tracker list and import that flow there. And once this screen has appeared, then I'll want to scroll down here to select the accounts that I want to use in the imported flow. So I'll just select my accounts here, hit save, hit import. And once it's done with that import, then I should get this link here where I can click Open Flow. And once we're on the Flow page, we'll want to open this first scope, go to the settings, and go right past the list name here to site URL. And if you see here, this is a dummy site name. So what we want to do is we want to go to the home page of the site where we want our list to be created, that SharePoint and Teams group homepage. So I'll copy the URL here and then paste it in. And then I'll go right down to the Get a Team action immediately below settings, cancel that out, select the same site here, and then I can save the flow. And once that's saved, I can go back out to this initial menu, turn the flow on, go back to the edit menu, click test, manual, test, run flow, and then this may take a minute to create everything. And once the flow is done, then we can go back out to that site. And if we scroll down here, we should be able to find somewhere in the navigation. If I refresh here, we'll find somewhere in the navigation the link to our new list. So this is the standard status Kanban with the planning, in progress, on hold, and complete. If you wanted to change the bucket title headers here or a couple other things, then you'll want to go to the all items view, and all the buckets in the Kanban view that we're just on are based on this status column that you can see here. And in this view, we can actually go to edit the column where we can see all those bucket names right here. So if we wanted to add or remove some, or maybe go in here and say remove the dash with a space, then we could do that there. Another thing that you may be looking to do, especially if you're working on a larger project with maybe multiple geographic locations or multiple different teams and departments, is change this default project areas field. For this, I think I'll use the teams example. So do logistics, finance, and project, project management. And that way I could designate and filter based on which teams are involved with which project items. So I'll save that. Next, we may be looking to this notes section, because if we go to create a new item, then we'll see the notes down here are plain text. So we'll want to go to edit the notes column, and then use enhanced rich text should be on by default given the default set in the flow, but for some reason it doesn't activate until we come in here, hit the edit, and click save. So we'll do that. And once we do that, when we go to a new item, we see that the notes section is now in rich text, where we can put in a link, or we can put in bullets, or any other rich text formatting that we need. One other thing that I like to do with this form, because this default form can get pretty lengthy and it may be hard to read, I'll go over to the configure layout in the edit form section, and I'll switch this over to body, and we'll want to input a JSON segment of code here to help section out all these things and change up the formatting a bit. So for that, we can go back to our project tracker files and open the configure layout body JSON text. Here, I'll just do Control A and Control C to copy all that's in this file, and then go back here and paste it right into the body here. And later, if you wanted to add some more fields, you just need to follow the same sort of pattern here with the JSON, with the name of the original name of the SharePoint column within double quotes, and make sure to add a comma if it's not the last item in the list. But don't need that right now, so I'll remove that. Click Save. And now when I go to create a new item, it instead has all these split out by different sections. So we have the general section, the deliverable info, and the assigned people section. Let me just go over here for a second and hit refresh, because it's usually even a little bit better. There it is. So yeah, general section, deliverable info, and assigned people. And I think I will start creating a new card here. So set that. So the status to planning. Goal level. The goal levels are done by the Agile project management theme, epic, and story. So if you see here, a theme is an overarching goal or initiative for the organization. Epics are larger collectives of work, collections of work to develop some functionality or achieve some objective. And then user stories are smaller parts of work that can usually be achieved by an individual in a few days or a few weeks. So a theme involves several epics, and an epic involves several user stories. I'll also link to this page in the video description. So for this, I'll set the goal level to epic, set the project area to project management. I'll set the start date, set the expected end date. Completed date is more for once the item has actually been completed so that you can later compare what the expected due date was to the actual completed date. And then down in deliverable info, we have the as a, I want, so. This is basically the who, the what they want, and the why they want it for in Agile terminology. So for this, I'll say as a project manager, I want, I'll just pull these up here, an Office 365 compatible project management software application the entire organization can easily access and collaborate on. How convenient. And there's why we want it. And for accountable, I'll start putting in some people. So I am accountable, let's say there's we will consult, so they will advise on this. I will be the ultimate person with final decision-making authority and the person that people can run to if things go wrong. And then responsible would be, say, the people who are tasked to help or to actually work on the item. So that all looks good. I can save that. Now, initially, you may see this and be like, well, I don't really want to see just these items on the card, or I have other things that I'd like to see that we just put in there. Well, no worries. You can go over to the view and down here at the bottom, find the customize card option. And here we have all the columns from that previous all items screen. So I'm going to reorganize this to be the goal level, then the title of the card. Status I don't need because it's built into the Kanban. I don't need parent goals right now or priority. And I'll add in project areas. There we go. Okay, and that's all set. So next I may want to be able to filter my items based on specific criteria. This may not be so obvious right now because we don't have a lot of things in here yet, but it would be once you started to add several more project items. So for this, I want to go back to all items. And here we can basically add whatever columns we want to that filters pane by going in and clicking the column settings and then click pin to filters pane. So I'm going to do status. I'll do accountable and responsible. I'll do parent goal. Goal level. Project areas. Then due date and predecessors. And just to explain a little more about parent goals and predecessors. So parent goal would be, say we have this epic, then if we had a larger overarching theme of, say, reducing the cycle time of projects, then this is the field where we would put the theme and list it in here, the title of the theme, and we'd select that there. Predecessors are especially useful for the later Gantt chart that we may show, where if we have some items that must happen before other items can occur, like for example with this, we may say that you'd want to have explored multiple project management software options. That's something that would have to happen before we implement said software project tracker options. So we'd put that user story or that epic in here. And just to show what that may look like, I'll go over to this preset example that I have over here, where we have this already built out with decreased project cycle times. And you'll see if I click on that, it shows all the same information from the card in this more earlier style view. And if I go here, we can see where this theme, where that was actually pulling the data from to show for that theme. And then we've also got user stories, other user stories and epics over here. And you'll see I have several more options in the filter panes here if I want to focus in on a select grouping of different user stories or epics using the filters that we already preset. So that's covering most of the card options and the filter options. Next, if we want to add in something like a mobile view option for some of our views, then we'll want to go into list settings here and go down to whichever view we want to include in the mobile version. And all we have to do is scroll down to the bottom of the view and enable this view for mobile access. I'll also make this the default since it's the Kanban card view. Click OK. And as I've explained here on the original thread, that enables the views. And then there's different links you can download for Apple or Google Store. For an Apple device, this is what it looks like, where you'd click on the SharePoint app, and then to get to the card view for the list, you'd actually want to click on the the three dots at the top, and click Open in Safari. And then you'd be able to get that card view directly on your phone. And after that, we can go on down to setting up the Gantt view. So for this, we want to go back to the list settings, scroll down, go to create a view, and then we can start from an existing view. So I'll click the Gantt template. And from here, I just want to copy this Gantt equal true part and add that to the end of my URL here. And the main difference between a standard view and the Gantt view is this section right here that pops up, where we can set the title, start date, due date, percentage complete, and predecessors to be shown on the Gantt chart. So for this, I'll just name it. And then set my title, start date, due date, and set predecessors. Then go down and click OK. And that creates a Gantt view for me. So I can unclapse these, and we can see the predecessor right there for one of our user stories going into one of our epics. For this, I also want to grab the URL up here, because we want to be able to save this. This view doesn't easily come up in SharePoint, so I want to make sure that we save it in Teams. So I can go over to the team site that we have for this SharePoint group, and there should actually already be this Kanban view in this channel that was automatically created when the flow ran. So for the Gantt view, though, I just want to click this button here, go to website, name it Gantt. I'll not post to the channel, post in that URL of that page. And that way we have the Gantt view saved here, so we don't have to go through the trouble of going through many like backlinks to get to this classic view, classic Gantt view on SharePoint. We'll just have it directly in Teams. And I'll click on this while I'm viewing it and move this over so it's easier to see everything. And there, anyone visiting the channel could now automatically see a Gantt chart that is already automatically synced with the Kanban board. And now that we've got the Kanban, Gantt, and mobile views set up, I think it's time to start talking about the automatic update digest. So that is the automation that's meant to provide a routine update once a day to each user on every item that has changed that involves them. And the way it knows which users are involved in each item is through the assigned people, the ROSI, accountable, responsible, consulted, informed inputs here. So to set this up, we'll go back to our files and you'll see it's the project tracker notification zip file. So just like when we created the list, we need to go over to Power Automate, go to My Flows, go import, upload that zip folder, put in our user accounts, and once that's loaded everything, then we can go to open the flow. And once on this page, you'll want to open up the recurrence and interval actions and just double check and make sure that whatever interval and recurrence is set here matches the number of hours in the interval here. So for instance, if you want to switch this to week, then you'd also want to switch the 24 hours to the number of hours within a week. And you'll also want to go down to the SharePoint action item. So this item here, remove that, and select the site where you created the new SharePoint tracker. Remove the list name, default, and then go to the project tracker that you created, and then hit save. And you'll want to go back out to the main menu here and just double check and make sure that the flow is turned on. And that should set it up to send those automatic updates every 24 hours or whatever recurrence you say to each person involved in each item that has been modified within that set interval. However, there is one more thing I suggest with this, and that's if you have your group set up where not everyone in your organization has the ability to edit things or view things within the SharePoint group that the list is a part of. And say you only want to give people across the entire organization the ability to view things within this specific project list, then you can go to list settings, go to permissions for this list, and then click on this stop inheriting permissions. So that breaks the inherited permissions with the rest of the SharePoint site, so that you're not adding everyone as a visitor for the site. And then you can, in these individualized permissions for list, click on the grant permissions and use whatever the all user group is in your organization. For most, it's probably all users. And then also you'll want to make sure to click on that show more and click off that send an email invitation. Probably don't want to send an email to everyone in your organization about this. and give them read permissions. You could also give them edit permissions if you want everyone in the organization to be able to edit, but I'll just put read for now. And then refresh the page. And there we can now see that all the users in the organization have the ability to at least read these list items. So if someone gets an email and they click on a link within that email from the daily updates, then they'll be able to actually view this type of page and actually look at what's been changed without having to ask permissions each time. Each time there's a new user who hasn't accessed the list before, and that should reduce the headache for anyone who has to manage the group permissions. Lastly, if we want a dashboard for a more aggregate view of everyone's ROSI roles and workloads, then we can open the Power BI file in the project tracker folder extract and start setting things up there. So the main thing that we have to set up, as you'll see when this opens, none of the visualizations will have any data in them, and that's because it's not connected to the correct SharePoint list yet. So see, no data. So what we need to do is we go to this queries tab, go to transform data, and then in transform data, we want to double click on source on the applied steps here and remove this site URL. We'll go back and again, go to the home page of the site where we created our new project tracker and go back and enter that site URL in, click OK. And then once that's set, we can double click on navigation, and this will bring up a list of all the SharePoint lists in our site. I'm going to use the example project tracker because that will have a few of those items already loaded in. If you're initially doing this with a list that you set up and you haven't added any items to it, then you may not see much when this loads. So I'll click close and apply here. That'll bring me back to our visualizations. It'll start to refresh. And since I used the example project tracker setup, we should have those items. So you'll see all these items listed in the file here. And again, these are already split up by accountable, responsible, consulted, informed, with it then split up by user. And each of these user sections has their own blocks that show which project items they're involved with. So that's helpful to see the workload across all the people on your team, but it's not yet set up to where just anyone could view it in Teams. So what we want to do for that is go to this publish button. And I'm going to save it to a group workspace. And once it's done publishing to the site, it should bring up this menu. I'm going to click to open in Power BI Online. Oh, double click there. And next, once I'm on Power BI Online, I want to go to Workspaces, go to that group workspace. If you didn't save it to group workspace, then it would just be in your own personal workspace. But let's see here, I can go down to Project Tracker, go to the data set, so the item with the brown label there, and click on these three dots. And first thing I want to do, I want to add permissions for everyone to view this. So I'll go here, turn off send email notification because I'm going to add all users. And this will grant all users in the organization the ability to view this report. So once I have that set up, then I can go back to here, and I want to then set up the automatic refreshes because If the list is updated, this does not automatically refresh with the list by default. So maybe I need to um, schedule refresh. Okay, and from here, go to this tab, schedule refresh. May have some issues with the credentials. Let's go to OAuth 2, organizational, sign in with this account. All right, and that seemed to fix things. So you can go back to the schedule refresh tab, click on, and then add a time. I'm going to say I want it to update every morning at 6 a.m. I'll apply that. And that's set both the permissions for everyone to view it and the automatic refresh for it to stay updated with the list each day as people make changes to the role assignments. So next, I can go back to Teams, go to the team where we have our Kanban and our Gantt chart, and I can click the Add a Tile. And for this, I'll click on Power BI. I'm going to post in the channel about this. And from here, I'll open that group workspace, find that project tracker. There we are. And click Save there. And now anyone visiting this channel who wants to go through and view different parts of the project, they can open up this page to see the workloads of everyone on the team involved with the project. So that is the setup for the Teams and SharePoint Kanban, Gantt chart, automatic updates, and Rossi workload tracker. And that's about it. So again, I hope you find this template helpful and that it makes it much easier for everyone to contribute to and reference all the who, what, when, why, and how questions in your projects. Have a good day.